East is where it's happening now. I've got, my daughter is like 19, swears she'll go and socialise, Bethnal Green Working Man's Club,
Amazing.
pubs, clubs, Brick Lane, all those things over that way.
Hoxton.
Well, Hoxton's too expensive now, isn't it? It's kind of moved further east again, It's always the same though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when...
Well, Chelsea used to be the slums, didn't it?
Yeah, Chelsea, Fulham. We were talking about this the other day, because my son plays rugby down in Hammersmith, in Fulham. And I've got to tell the story actually, because it was unbelievable. We went for he's in one of the junior teams, and we went for a lunch with some of his teammates and some of the other folks, and we went to this pub called the Wheatsheaf on Fulham Road. And we went in and, my wife and I are looking around, and there's all this original posters from the punk period on the walls, framed, And they weren't just bought off a shelf, because we reckon, there was some there which very short runs, an original Pistols Pretty Vacant poster, which was all those TVs, and it was, they weren't common posters, and we thought, bloody hell, this is amazing. And we're introduced to the manager, this guy Lance, and I'm chatting, and because when we started as the members, we rehearsed under Beggars Banquet shop in Fulham Broadway, bottom of North End Road, where the shop was when they first started it. And we got to know, because that was Lurkers territory. You remember the Lurkers? Yeah, well, they were a great band, and that was Lurkers territory, and they had this manic following of these Fulham kids, And because we sort of played at the Greyhound and various places like that, we got to know these guys, and I use the phrase we got to know them rather than they were our fans, because I don't think they were ever really what you call fans. They come to all our gigs because they could drink our beer and they knew us and they'd hang out and we liked them. But there were these two brothers, Max and Eddie, identical twins, who were kind of quite legendary. And I always remember them with fondness. And there was part of the crew was a young girl called Sian. Anyway, I'm talking to this manager of the pub, and I'm going, well, this was kind of like a pretty important punk area as well. He says, well, my dad and my uncle and my mum were all kind of very keen punks. And, and then he made some reference to his uncle Max. And I was like, is your dad called Eddie? Yeah, my mum's Sian. Oh, Jesus! And he was this kid. The last time I'd heard of him was when Eddie said, I've got Sian pregnant, and we was like, and now of course Sian's a very senior fire officer. She was head of the Guard of Honour at Joe Strummer's funeral, and now kind of runs one of the eastern sectors, and he's kind of got a great rep. And I don't know what Eddie's doing now, but it was so amazing to turn this full circle and meet this young guy who was a real credit. He's 28 now and been to university, and he's obviously on on the management fast track for pubs and go, but running a great pub. And it was I kind of think it really reflected well of the period, because punk was aspirational. I don't mean like Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran aspirational. Punk as a musical movement led to people doing a lot of other things. Having some kind of belief in themselves that they were capable of doing more than they were kind of getting allotted. It wasn't across the board, it wasn't a universal thing, but punk sort of swept away an awful lot of dead wood. So as a result, you got a new wave of filmmaking, a new wave of design, clothes design, graphic design.
Record companies, wasn't it?
Yeah, the rise of the independent label, which actually we're coming round to again, aren't we? I mean, I think if anything is going to save music, it will be independent record labels.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be starting to beat a drum here about I mean, it's a bit like shooting ducks in a barrel, isn't it? It's easy for any musician to go, we're an X Factor and all. But what is confusing me is this conflation of the idea that light entertainment is somehow a replacement for the music industry, is somehow a replacement for the creative drive of the music industry. Because I don't know about you, but
it's art, and art is the thing that changes things.
Yeah.
Not X Factor.
No, because X Factor is karaoke,
Yeah.
and that is, you know, people need to accept that. You know, just I've had rows with people going, "Oh, Susan Boyle, you know, she does a great version of Wild Horses," and I'm like, well, Jesus fucking Christ, how can a woman with no experience of where that song comes from, or what that song is, or what that song maintains, you know, Graham Parsons, Jagger, Marianne Faithfull, you know, those people, you know, there's a, you know, I'm sorry, but, you know, someone who just knows how to sing the tune